Happy Sunday. I wanted to take a minute and talk about misconceptions that a disabled person would or has encountered uh, out in public when strangers approach them. Uh, one misconception that people will always go to, that their number one go to, is assuming that a disabled person can't hear or speak. Now, while people can have this disability, they're deaf or they're mute. For me personally, when I am out in the community, at a grocery store, at a park, on a walk with my family, in the doctor's office, in a hospital even, people that approach me automatically assume that I can't hear or I can't speak because I'm in a wheelchair disabled. So if my children are with me, my parents are with me, if my husband is with me, or any other able-bodied person, the person that is supposed to be speaking to me, the other party will speak to the person that is with me, whether it be my parents, my children, my husband, a friend. They'll speak to them as if I was not around, or I couldn't comprehend what they said. And to me, that is the biggest, number one turn off of somebody that I'm speaking to or trying to get a service from or get help from. They will not speak to me. They'll speak to somebody else that's with me first. This is something that has to be broken down and stopped in its tracks, because nothing makes a child, a teenager, an adult feel smaller and undervalued as a human being when somebody else does not speak to them directly. They speak about them, they speak over them, as if that person was not in the room. And that has to stop. The purpose of this channel is to break down that barrier and say, no, just because I'm disabled, I'm still a human being. I still deserve that respect to be spoken to as a person. I can speak for myself. I can hear you. Now, I may not understand fully, depending on the situation. I may not fully understand what you're saying, but I can ask for clarification, just as a person speaking to me can ask for clarification of what I'm trying to say. And if my spouse or my children or my parents or a family friend, whoever's with me, can tell that person, no, do not speak to me, speak to her. She knows the answers. She knows how to respond to what you're wanting. And if she doesn't understand something, she'll ask for clarification. That's how we need to break down that barrier, is speak to the person that is disabled as if they are a regular human being, because they are a regular human being. Don't be afraid of them. Speak to them. Another misconception is that a disabled person in a wheelchair, specifically, can't do sports. Well, this is kind of true. Let me clarify. We cannot do sports like an able-bodied person can. We can't play basketball on our feet. We can't play ice hockey on our feet. We can't water ski standing up. All of these things have to be adapted to the disability. Some children, some adults, some teens can stand, but they're still disabled. You have to adapt the sport around the disabled person. When I was a teenager, I was very blessed, and I got to attend for, I believe it was 4 years, maybe 3 years, for a week in July, starting on Father's Day, for a whole entire week. I got to go to the next city over from where I lived in California, and for a whole entire week, it was sports 24/7, and it was fun 24/7. Now, the first year, I will admit, I was scared to death to be away from my parents, because up until then, I had never been away from my parents because of my disability. I was in my own little bubble, my safety bubble. Everybody has that safety bubble. But I had an adaptive PE teacher that I hope sees this video. I hope that he subscribes to this channel. Eric Schnedeker was his name, or is his name. He's still alive. Thank goodness. He was my adaptive PE teacher in junior high and high school. He was the biggest blessing to me. He also was, I believe, PE teacher, adaptive PE teacher, instructor, whatever you want to call it, at the university in the next city over from where I lived, and he had these students that were able-bodied. They were taking classes in adaptive PE, and so he had this sport camp. Shout out to Ability First Sport Camp. I got to attend for 3 or 4 years. Now, that first year, yeah, I was scared to death because I had never been away from my parents. But it was the biggest blessing. I got to do basketball. I got to do wall climbing / rock climbing. I got to do water polo. I got to, my very favorite, till this day is my very favorite, is water skiing. I actually have pictures that I'm going to try to find, and I will insert the pictures some way, somehow. I'll insert pictures on another upcoming video that I'm gonna do about water sports, and I'll insert those pictures. So stay tuned for those very special pictures. So we had fun throughout this whole week of sport camps. I met so many lifelong friends throughout the whole U.S. and other countries, lifelong friends that were disabled differently abled, the same as me. And I never encountered that. And water skiing, I can't say enough about the water skiing. It is my absolute favorite thing to do. And yes, I'm in my 40s now. Get me an adaptive water ski and a boat and a lake, and I'm on that water. That if anybody has any hookups to a ski, a lake, I've got the lake covered. A boat and a ski that's adapted for sit skiing. Hook me up. Please hook me up. I want to water ski so bad. I want to show my family, my children, my husband. I want to show them what this is like. It's so awesome. More about that later. But if you have a hookup, please hook me up. Another thing, a misconception that I've run into this in my whole adult life, is that disabled people can't or shouldn't work. This one is a hot topic for me. Well, my husband is blessed to have the best job I think he has. He's got the best job. They're very supportive in my disability, his ability to have to take care of me, his ability to have to help me a little bit more when my oldest was littler, and because I don't drive right now. So he had to help me out when our oldest was little. And I'm so blessed to not have to work for the first 2 or 3 years of her life. I got to stay home with her. Not because I couldn't work, because I wanted to stay home with her. And so I did. When she was around the 3-year mark, I decided it was time to start to look for work. Well, my father-in-law at the time worked for the government, and I decided, what good is that gonna? It's just a dead end job. It's the government. Who wants to work for the government? That aside, I decided to apply. And wouldn't you know, I got a call back 48 hours after I applied and said, your fingerprinting date is this date. Come to the fingerprint. So I did. I was automatically hired for this government job. No interview, nothing like that. No interview, like a normal job. You think that they would have interviews. No, they didn't. It was an automatic hire, but it was a little bit of a process. So it's not that I couldn't work all this time. I didn't want to. So the misconception is that we can't work. Well, it's easier for some of us to not work because of, let's say, Social Security income, SSI income. You're getting your insurance, your disability insurance through the state. So it's easier to not work because you have this Medicaid, Medi-Cal, whatever you want to call it, insurances like that actually pay for your medical supplies. And I was on that as a teenager, but when I got married, of course I lost all of that. So I couldn't, so I just needed to be able to work. I worked for 3 years, then I got furloughed and went back to work and worked for a couple more years, and then I ended up having my son. And I was furloughed at that time, and I decided I needed to not work again and raise my kids. So I did. I took time out, raised my kids, got them to a certain point in life where they were in school, and I decided to go back to work. And I've actually been working for the government off and on for about 15, 16 years. Now, I know there's a lot, the government is a hot topic that we're not going to discuss on this channel, but it is a job. And it actually pays really good. And I happen to enjoy it. So we're just going to leave that one there and leave that misconception that people can't work right there, because they obviously can. Another big one, you heard me speak about my family, my husband, my children. Another misconception is that we can't have families. I heard ever since I was 13, 14, 15 years old that I couldn't have a family, or I shouldn't have a family because it was too dangerous. Again, yeah, that's all up for debate. Some people, yeah, it's too dangerous to have children. And I advise to speak to your doctor openly, and don't let them bully you into not having kids. Yes, it is difficult. Yes, the birth part of it can be difficult and life-threatening. But I will throw this out there. It's difficult for a woman who is not disabled. It's just as difficult for her to have children as it is for a disabled woman to have children. I don't know if it's more difficult. I don't know, because disabled women every day have complications in their pregnancy and in their deliveries. So to say for a disabled woman to not have families, I'm going to have to put a stop to that. Right here, right now. They can have families. Whether it's natural childbirth, whether it's adoption, either way, they can have families. You just have to talk to your doctor, talk to your spouse. It's another thing that I just now thought of. Women can't get married because of their disability. I've proven that to be false. My husband and I, yes, we've had issues. Yes, we've had issues with my disability and me having to be in the hospital quite a lot. That puts a strain on any marriage. But what doesn't? Marriage is marriage. He and I have been married for 20 years. Next month. Actually, the end of next month will be 20 years. So, we can, in fact, have families. We can, in fact, get married. That's a personal choice. Both of those are a personal choice. And you have to have that open, honest conversation with your spouse and your doctors to see if that's the right choice for you. But do not let anybody bully you into flat out saying, I'm not going to have kids. I can't have kids. No, don't let the doctors bully you into saying that. It has to be a choice. If you choose to have children, know the complications that you could have. Don't go into it just because I can. Go into it with an open heart and realize that, yeah, you could have complications. Yeah, you could die. But so could the non-disabled lady next to you. You can do it. It just has to be a choice that you're willing to accept the consequences. Another assumption, misconception that I hear all the time is disabled people are bedbound 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That could not be farther from the truth. Now, yes, some people are. Some people are unfortunately stuck to being in bed because of their circumstances. But not all disabled people are bedbound. A lot of the disabled people, going back to the sport camp, she's talking. Going back to the sport camp, I was very active. A lot of people are very active. It just depends on your situation. Another misconception is, and the last misconception that we were able to come up with, is that a disabled person needs 24-hour care.
I'll edit your video. Can you pause so I can rinse my hair?